Hello, good evening. This evening we're on the north shore of Nantucket Island, here at Brant Point, which is actually federal property with a lighthouse built in 1746 to our right. The harbor, you see all the boats. It's where the ferries come in. Very, very different than the South Shore, and a very beautiful place as well. If you have any interest in my talks, please subscribe to Philosophy Pop-Up Workshop. This evening is going to be concerned with COVID-19, otherwise known as SARS-2. The entire talk is going to have to do with various aspects of what's going on at present and or recently with COVID-19. A number of different points. You'll find that one of the points later on will be a slight departure, but most of this is going to be about how the transmission, at least in the United States, in recent times, a great deal of the transmission has been driven by youth spreading, and that really is in two categories. A lot of it comes from the 20-somethings and 30-somethings who've been congregating, and particularly in southern states, and seen a lot of transmission that way. What has also been discovered recently is that children are getting it. They tend to be asymptomatic. They tend to do very, very well with it. Deaths are almost astronomically low. ICU or even hospitalization, very, very low with 0 to 19. However, what has been learned is that they do get it and they can transmit it to adults. That was very much in question for quite a while, and it seems definitive at this point. So, with those aspects in mind, I would simply suggest it's critically important, especially with the adults, to rein in their behaviors and think of other generations, and also realize that there isn't absolute invincibility. There are exceptional cases. There are people in their 20s and 30s who have died from this, or been very, very ill, and it would behoove the younger generations to please take more care. We've already had spreading just in the last week. Two of the college campuses in Massachusetts that reopened. The students, of course, were warned ad infinitum. And nevertheless, there was a party at one of the universities and a number of COVID cases right after. Here on Nantucket, we've had several cases that have come from a youth beach party, which is kind of alarming because it was outside. And I don't know how large the group was or exactly where they were. It may have been very, very dense, and maybe it was in a partially enclosed environment. I don't know any of the details. I've just learned of this. I also want to give an example for those who think that it's simply a moral issue and concern about the older generations getting it from younger people. There was an article in the New York Times several weeks ago about the U.S. women's rowing team, the Olympic trainees for the Tokyo Olympics, who of course have to wait until next summer for the games. They contracted COVID. All of them got it. Every single rower got it. Some of them were fine, some of them were asymptomatic, some got very light symptoms, several of them got very, very sick. These are all women in their 20s and early 30s. Some of them have some of the strongest hearts and lungs you'll ever find on the planet. And they got really, really sick. One of them was talking about 6 or 8 weeks later barely being able to walk 100 feet. and nearly collapsing and having to go right back to bed. So I really wanted to use that to illustrate, no matter how great an athlete someone is, this can take anybody down. Just the odds are a lot less. I also wanted to mention we've had some other potential transmissions here on island, and people have been very responsible and actually have made contact with the hospital and asked about testing. And they haven't gotten a very enthusiastic response. And I'm having a hard time with that because I think it's utterly essential that people are encouraged. No doubt there are people who actually are symptomatic who are wary of contacting the hospital or contacting anyone. And so in my view, the hospital needs to encourage people to the utmost extent, as opposed to turning them away or not answering questions very thoroughly and very patiently when people are actually trying to find out what they should do. So I'd like to add that aspect. And then one more thing, and this is where I wanted to depart a little bit. We have this issue having to do with wearing masks, particularly in the United States, where this has been politicized as much as anywhere in the world. Brazil is the only country I can think of that has gone the route that we have at all, really. I mean, it's been very polarized and very political, and mask wearing has been politicized. And one of the things I've noticed in discussions is that there are, particularly for males, there seems to be an issue having to do with it not being manly or restricting freedom or various other things. And what I want to say about that is I think the fundamental point with it is that the wearing of the mask is not to protect oneself. Or rather, that's ancillary. That is secondary. By far the greatest potential effect is to protect other people. And so when I see, and scientists are very clear on this, so when I see people not paying attention to science, that really confuses me. Science has been predominantly a male throughout its history. It was born of philosophy thousands of years ago. And this information has been out there for quite some time, and there isn't much debate about it. And so it's utterly crucial, along with the testing and the tracing. Those three elements, masks, hand washing, distance, testing and tracing, all these things are utterly essential, or this virus will circulate round and round, and we won't get rid of it for a long time. And in the meantime, we'll have tremendous economic, psychological, and social devastation. So please, can we not do the utmost in what's humanly possible? It's enough of a challenge. If everybody does the right thing, it is enough of a challenge. So I wanted to get that in. And that's going to wrap it up. All the best, and God bless. And look at this great mystery.